So, as a finance leader, training to become a CFO, or even if you're already a CFO finance director, personal and professional growth and self-study is really important. That's why I like to do book reviews every now and then. Now, obviously, I am going to tell you all about my book, Financial Leadership Fundamentals: How to Become a CFO in a Startup or Scale Up. But that's not the book I'm going to be talking about today. Instead, I want to talk about this old one. This has been around for a very long time. I don't know if you've already ever seen it before, but it is Jack Canfield's The Success Principles: How to Get from Where You Are to Where You Want to Be. Now, I will say that this one is a little bit dated. It's been around for a long time. There's certain things in there that that we can do automatically or AI can help you. But in general, it really does remain a great read. Particularly if you're looking for motivational and real active guidance on how to get to that next level. So today I want to review this book. I've summarized kind of the top 5 themes of the book that really resonate strongly with the ethos of, say, a CFO and finance director training. My name's Alysha Randall. I'm a fractional CFO for Fast Growth Consulting, and I also train new and aspiring CFOs within startups and scale ups. And as I mentioned, I wrote a book on that. I also run courses as well. So I'll leave some links below for those. I do a video once a week on Thursdays. So if you want to be or at the early stages of being a finance leader within a startup and scale up, then click on the subscribe button below because this content is very much for you. So the first one, when I'm thinking about this particular book, which I think is really interesting, particularly because there's a lot of negativity around the way, say, my generation is potentially parenting and the younger generation is stereotyped with. But I think this is really important, and that is taking responsibility. So the book really begins with the foundational principle of taking full responsibility for your actions and decisions. So, this isn't only relevant for finance professionals who often make critical decisions impacting an organization's future, but also for your own life and your own career. So this book is very good, I would say, with giving specific examples of how people didn't get over their fear, but rather went against their fear and just took a chance anyway and, took ownership of that. This particular tip actually really resonated with me as it's only something that I've been able to do in the last few years. And I can very clearly remember that much earlier in my life and very much in my career, I allowed my fear and anxiety to stop me. So, it's a great reminder that everyone can be fearful or anxious, regardless of how successful they are. There's one particular thing that I personally have said quite a lot, and I didn't make it up. I've heard it from someone else. I don't remember who. And that is, if you don't ask, the answer is always no. So if I ever get scared about asking for something, I remind myself that if I don't, then the answer is no. So even though I haven't asked, so if I ask, the answer could be yes. So it's worth taking a chance. I think also, I know certainly earlier in my career, and I've definitely heard other people say this, is potentially they may come up with some excuses as to why things haven't happened in their life. So they blame, I don't know, their health or their children or their partner or circumstances or their boss or whatever it is. And yes, of course, life can certainly give you some challenges, give you plenty of humps in the road, but there's not many people in the world who don't get challenged like that. And so blaming those kind of things is easy to do. Again, I've certainly caught myself blaming other things when actually I should have, done something about it, or I should have been ahead of the game. So there is an element of giving yourself some slack, but also recognizing that if you want to get to that next level, then it's up to you. It's not up to anyone else. You need to do what you need to do in order to get there, within reason, of course. Number 2 is setting clear goals. So Canfield really emphasizes the power of setting clear and achievable goals. Again, this is very relevant for both financial planning and strategy development, any CFOs toolkit, say, within a business, but as well as your own life. So really deciding the direction of where you want to go helps you steer your life or company in that direction. So if I think about business specifically as a starting point, both on this channel and also my channel for founders, I have talked regularly that you cannot say, for example, for finance leaders, we cannot put a budget together until we know the strategic and operational goals. It's almost impossible because you need to know where the business is going. So as you're planning the steps to get to that big picture, that big goal, you need to really understand what you're heading towards. And I will say that's exactly the same for your own personal life as well. So a perfect example is I spoke to somebody this morning who, is very keen to move to that next level within their career. They have some idea of where they want to go, but it wasn't really established. They didn't have a clear understanding of this is where I want to go. So how do I get there? And actually, I can only give so much advice if I don't know where they want to get to. So step 1, work out where you want to go. Like those big picture visionary, like you do with budgeting. You have the big strategic goals, the really big things that you want to achieve over the next, say, 5 to 10 years. And then they get broken down to smaller little things that you can do in order to achieve those bigger goals. So what you ask your founders to do before budgeting is exactly what you can take as your own advice for your own life. Number 3 is overcoming obstacles. So similar to the first point, this book really provides, actually, which I quite like, practical advice of overcoming challenges and setbacks. So learning that mistakes are okay. And actually, you probably learn more when you make a mistake rather than getting everything right 100% of the time. And this is really critical for your development and for your learning. This is another, maybe why these kind of things really resonate with me is because they're things that I had to learn the hard way. And maybe if you decide to read this book, you might find other insights that really resonate with you. But these are the ones that really resonated with me. And I would say making mistakes and being okay with making mistakes, it was a big one for me. For those of you who have, say, come from a firm or come from audit, I think making mistakes is, you're trained basically not to make mistakes. So if you do make mistakes, it's really difficult to just shake that off and see it as a learning opportunity. But actually, if I think about my own business, Fast Growth Consulting this year, we made a mistake, thankfully not with a client, but more on the operational side of the business. And because of that, we've completely changed everything around. And where we are today is so much better than where we were 6 months ago operationally. It's actually quite exciting. And none of that would have happened if I hadn't made that mistake earlier in the year. So, and that's for, me personally, I can look back on that. I mean, hindsight gives you 20/20 vision, sure, but trying to use mistakes as a learning tool and celebrate mistakes within reason and say, what can I change? What can I do? What can I learn from this mistake is really critical, I feel. Number 4 is the power of persistence. So Canfield's emphasis on perseverance really does actually align perfectly with the process of becoming a CFO, I'd say, where persistence in learning and growing and adapting is really key in progressing within your career. I also find this true with companies that we work for. So there's often no golden ticket of getting bigger, getting better, getting, faster, getting more customers. So trying lots of different iterations and tweaks is generally how customers grow their customer base. It's teeny tiny iterations all the time. which can be quite difficult. Social media, everything is instant type of generation that we're in today. But there isn't a really quick way of becoming super skilled at being a CFO. There is no quick way of getting a ridiculous amount of customers. There may have been a couple of good luck instances, but in general, most businesses just have that slow iteration. Everything is slow, small, incremental changes that come out to that bigger thing or bigger goal that you want. It's just going to take time. Number 5 is continuous learning and growth. So this is a principle of lifelong learning. And in the book, I would say it mirrors the journey of a finance professional who must constantly update their knowledge and skills in a rapidly changing industry. So this is particularly true higher up the corporate ladder you go. So obviously getting qualified is a really good step at the beginning of your career, but really is only the start of your learning, and there is so much more to go. It doesn't really stop. And I feel that it's also very true with technology, AI, and software. We need to constantly stay up to date. We need to keep learning. We need to make sure that our knowledge is relevant and useful and not get left behind. Again, I did make this mistake. I think in my first finance director role, I didn't bother with self-study outside work. Sure, I worked really hard. I learned a lot about the business, what have you, but I didn't learn in the background how to be a good finance director. I didn't learn about leadership skills and all those kind of things over and above what my employer had already given me. And within 12 months, I realized my mistake because a lot of my colleagues had been reading the latest books or watching a podcast or going to mini courses. And I realized they probably knew more than they definitely knew more than I did. So I needed to do a bit of a catch up. So I haven't stopped self-study and learning since then. And you will find that many founders that I speak to, they also are all about learning and getting more knowledge throughout their life, basically. So again, if you want to progress in your career, then constantly upskilling yourself is really important. So while this book may not be the newest book on the shelf, it's definitely, I'd say all of the lessons, not all of them, but a lot of the lessons are very timeless and they continue to inspire and motivate you to do more. So its principles are a reminder that, again, the path to success, both personal and professional, it is an ongoing journey. Hate that word, but it is, of learning and adapting and growing. It really doesn't happen overnight and won't happen if you don't take some level of action and ownership. So I do recommend this book, particularly if you feel a little bit lost, you don't really know what your next steps are within your career. You're in like a role that you've been in for ages and you want more, but you don't know what to do and how to get there, then I would definitely recommend this one as a good start. And then obviously this one as a second. So if you want to be a skilled and confident finance leader in the next 12 months, sorry. Here I am saying quick wins, and actually it's a long time. Then I have 3 steps for you. The first one is to subscribe to this YouTube channel. I do weekly videos, so you will get notified for those. Of course, my second one is to check out this book. I had a very nice compliment for this book today. The person I spoke to said this is one of the best books she's ever read as an accountant, and she complimented me loads and said actually one of her friends gave it to her because she recommended it to her. So that was really nice. So thank you if you're watching. That was a really nice compliment. And then the third one is to take a look at the FLF course, where we go through all of the principles in the book in a lot more detail, and we have monthly Q&A sessions where I can chat to you about your specific situation. So if any of that sounds interesting to you, then check all of the links below. Otherwise, thanks so much for watching, and I'll speak to you next week. Cheers.